Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President and CEO of the National Business Aviation Association, Ed Bolen.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this GA Association's President's Panel. This is something that I think is really emblematic of what has been happening in the general aviation community over the course of the last several years. You know, it's no shock to anyone when I say that for several years now, this is a community that's been under an enormous amount of pressure. And when you're under an enormous amount of pressure, you find out pretty quickly what's at the core. And what we found was at the core of general aviation in the United States was a lot of people who were deeply passionate and willing to come together in a unified way to meet the challenges that we face. And I don't think anything shows that more clearly than the fact that the associations that represent various parts of the community have come together and for several years been working closely, well coordinated, and I'd like to say somewhat successfully, to meet some of the challenges that we've faced. Now, unfortunately, those challenges continue, so unfortunately, we get to stay together. Just kidding. No, this has been a real pleasure for us because I think as we have worked through a number of issues together, we have not just found the synergies in our various associations, we found friendships and a kindred spirit. And that has made the opportunity to work together so much more enhanced. So I'd like to take an opportunity today to introduce some of my close colleagues, friends, compatriots. I'm going to begin with Selena Shilad. Selena is the head of the Alliance for Aviation Across America. Over 5,000 people and organizations that have come together to support general aviation. Now, these people are not part of the general aviation community necessarily. They're small town mayors, they're city council members, they're state legislators, they're governors, they're associations ranging from the League of Rural Voters to the Corn Growers of America. They only have one thing in common. They know general aviation matters to the future of so many communities around the United States. We've got Matt Zuccaro with us from Helicopter Association International. All of you recognize that helicopters are a fundamental part of the general aviation community, a fundamental part of the business aviation community. And so oftentimes people try to single out helicopters, treat them differently, try to dismiss them. That can't happen because the reality is any attack on any part of our industry will ultimately be debilitating for all of our industry. I'm pleased to have Rod Hightower here with the Experimental Aircraft Association, home of the great air show, perhaps the greatest air show anywhere in the world, an absolute week-long celebration of aviation and aviation passion, and also a tremendous grassroots organization. Pete Bunce, the president and CEO of the General Aviation Manufacturers Association. All of the world's leading manufacturers are part of GAMA. These are the organizations, the companies that are investing in the future products, investing in the future technologies. They know the potential for this industry. They know who the markets are, who the potential operators are, and all of the flexibility that it's going to create. They also know that we've got to make sure that we have access to those markets. They are not unfair burdens imposed by our government or other governments that limit the use of the airplanes. Craig Fuller is the president and CEO of the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, the world's largest general aviation membership organization, over 400,000 pilots strong, representing the majority of pilots in the United States, and really a leading association for pilots all throughout the world. And then we've got Jim Coyne with us today. Jim is the dean of this delegation. He's with the National Air Transport Association, representing all of those businesses at airports which try to service airplanes, support airplanes, and make all of this possible, whether it's through fuel, whether it's with maintenance or any other type of product support. So we have a terrific lineup today, and I'd like to just go ahead and jump right on into it. Craig, I think maybe I'll start with you, because with 400,000 pilots, you certainly have your finger on the pulse of what people out there are thinking and feeling as pilots. And over the course of the past year, we've had a number of challenges kind of imposed on our industry, from the block aircraft registration request program, depreciation schedules, and now this user fee proposal that we thought was dead is resurfaced. How are you sensing that the people in the grassroots, the pilots that are out there, how are they sensing and feeling this, and how are they responding in ways that should encourage us that we have an informed, active, and motivated industry?
Well, thank you, Ed, and thank you for having all of us. It is always great to be together. This is a very important show. I will say that I'm kind of glad that I've already done mine. I'm really very relaxed. This is just a terrific experience. As you were describing some of the problems, I thought of that phrase that if you're not panicked, you don't fully understand the situation. We sometimes have felt a little bit of panic, but I will say that I think what's impressed me more than anything, and now a little over 3 years since I first jumped into this, is the resilience of the general aviation community. It's been cyclical for decades. No doubt the worst economy in 70 years has a very serious impact on us, but it is a resilient industry. And so you see people that are so determined to continue to enjoy that freedom to fly, that maybe they downsize into a light sport aircraft, maybe they take an aircraft that they wanted to perhaps trade in, and they sort of trade up the avionics package, and we see a lot of that. And I think at this particular point in this very slow economic recovery, I think in many ways that what we're seeing is an unevenness. So you see a lot of people putting avionics into aircraft. You see the used aircraft market beginning to pick up. We hear operations. We've got experts here beginning to pick up. I go into FBOs now, and they tell me that there's a good deal of activity. There's a lot of pent-up desire to both use the aircraft that our members own, and people who want to get into flying to get into flying. In fact, I think one of the most serious problems that we have faced, which is going to have to cycle through, is a huge drop-off in people learning to fly, which is why Rod and I are working so hard to do what we can to make sure that as this economy strengthens, we're getting people back into flying. But I do town hall meetings. There's a lot of enthusiasm. And in terms of the political pressure, and then I'll pass the microphone to the next person, but in terms of the political pressure, I do think that our pilots are frustrated. They don't understand why an administration would single out their activity, whether they're using their aircraft for personal reasons or business, and usually it's both. They don't understand why a user fee proposal that literally was rejected by both the House and Senate and the administration at one point would suddenly pop up. My own answer to that is we're experiencing policy by pollster, which means if a phrase polls well, they'll make it policy or try to. I don't think that will succeed. So they're frustrated by that. Got an election year next year, and that's usually a time when people express their frustration, so we'll see what happens.
You know, Craig, I was actually, I found it very interesting. The White House created a new process where people could voice some of their concerns and weigh in on regulations and weigh in on proposals. You actually had a member that really took the ball on the whole user fee issue.
Well, yeah, this is, there's clearly people in the White House that are maybe more fascinated by virtual reality than reality, but that's okay. They created a website that you get to through their whitehouse.gov, and it's up on the screen here, and I know you can link it through the NBAA website. They created a means by which citizens could petition the White House on policies that were of interest. Very, very simple methodology. You can write in a petition on any subject matter, and if you get 5,000 people to electronically sign your petition, senior White House staff members will review this petition. Never seen anything quite like it, but one of our members tipped us off that another one of our members in Marion, Iowa, took the language that we've all been speaking about user fees, and the petition is take aviation user fees off the table. He wrote a very eloquent statement about what that meant. And when I got it, it had 37 electronic signatures. I made 38. And it happened the next morning, many of us were together. So I said, I don't know quite what to make of this. They just started this last week. This fellow's done this. None of us had talked to him about it. But if it's going to sit out there, I think we should respond. So everybody got busy, and we did track the guy down. They only identify somebody by their first name and last initial, and there were 3 people that fit the description in Marion, Iowa, but we found him, and we did a story about him. I think we've topped 9,000, headed to 10,000 electronic signatures, so maybe we'll get twice the consideration by the White House, I don't know.
Well, I think that's really encouraging to see people in our community taking it upon themselves to make our voices heard.